Hi, this is Keith from Fedora Outlier. Have you recently purchased an iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, or Mac computer because you've heard that all Apple devices are now accessible? Are you having a little frustration trying to figure out how to use your device effectively? Fedora Outlier can help. We provide better than excellent consulting, teaching, and support. For more information, contact us at 888-958-6979 or online at www.fedораoutlier.com.
Empowering the blind to be excellent, do more, and live with greater success. This show is for you and about you. Welcome to the Delivering Access Podcast.
All right, Delivering Access Podcast listeners, thank you for your time and putting us in your earbuds to listen to this very exciting guest that we have for you today. I'd like to introduce to you all a great entrepreneur, an NFB member, just a fine lady, Mrs. Cheryl Echeverria. Cheryl, are you prepared to empower?
I certainly am. Can't wait to do so.
Great. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to jump with you and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you became blind, and some of the tools that you've used along your journey.
Well, I'll be glad to do that. I am born and raised New York, born in the Bronx and lived on Long Island my whole life, except for 1 year I lived in Florida and can't take the New Yorker out of the girl. So I came back and married my wonderful husband, Nelson, who is also my vice president of my company. I lost my vision in 2001 from complications from diabetes, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and cataracts. Got the grand slam there. And also I lost, I was more low vision back then, but I unfortunately around that time I was also due to complications from diabetes. I had to go on dialysis due to my kidneys failing. And then in 2005, I had a life-saving kidney transplant from a very good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Carroll, who is no longer with us. He passed away 2 years ago from cancer. So I always have a part of him with me, and we were both very instrumental in advocating for people with kidney failure, and before he passed away, he was very instrumental in working with me on accessibility for the blind as well. In 2006, once I was healthy enough, I started learning Braille from the Hadley School, and I also learned Zoom text because I still have slight vision. I'm learning window eyes now. I joined the NFB in 2006 as a regular paid member of the Greater Long Island chapter. I became treasurer in 2007, and I still hold that position today, and that's with the great affiliate of the New York State affiliate of New York. And last year in 2013, I still hold the treasury position, but I'm also vice president of our chapter. Let's see, we're in 2014. In 2011, at the Dallas convention, I was asked by Don Gilmore of Illinois, who was the president of the NFB Travel and Tourism Division then, had asked me if I would run for president because I have been doing a lot of advocacy in the travel field, which we'll get to a little bit about that. And I said, sure. I said that'll be great. I would love to bring this division forefront and work in that area with them. So I was elected to take over for him. He was ill. He's still with us, but he was not well enough to continue as president. And then in 2012, I was elected as president, and I'm up for re-election in Orlando 2014. So if you like what I'm doing, come on down to our meeting, which is going to be held on July 3rd between 1 and 4 p.m. And sit down with us and learn what it's all about. And, all of the division members, officers are up for re-election. So if you feel you have some things to offer as an officer, come on down and, put your name for nominations, and we'll see what we can do.
Great. And so, Cheryl, this show is definitely about you and highlighting your journey, and that was just a stupendous timeline of the accomplishments that you've made in just a short period of time. But we're going to transfer a little bit over to your desires for the blindness community, and how are you taking those desires and invoking change in that very same community?
Well, my biggest thing is, and I'm been an advocate way before I became blind. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. He passed away about 25 years ago, and I was always working and learning from him because he was an advocate as well for them. And it's been in my blood. So, and I always wanted to give back and stuff. So, when I became a travel agent in 2009, because the issues when I was out there trying to make and talk to travel professionals about wanting to go to Walt Disney World or anywhere, they were very unfriendly about it. They would say, well, why would a blind person want to travel? You can't see anything, this and that. I know it sounds funny to us, but in reality, you know what it is? It's people being uneducated. I think if more people were educated about blindness and realize that, we're business people, we're wives, we're husbands, we're business owners, we're college graduates, which I am.
Fathers.
Mothers, fathers, yes, exactly. And the children as well. And, with the proper training, we could do anything. It's just a characteristic of being blind, like somebody's black, somebody's white, somebody's blonde, blue eyes, whatever you have it, it's just a characteristic. And as us being blind, it's up to us how we look at ourselves and feel about ourselves and how confident we are.
Right.
And the way I'm trying to change the way that is, I'm trying to, first of all, make sure us, the blind, get out of that box we live in, because people feel, oh, well, I get out, I go down the street. If somebody drives me somewhere, I go to grandma's house or I visit my family, or sometimes it's just the national convention or state convention is the only place they go every year. And, if people can go to national convention with a little bit of assistance if they need it, if you don't, as we know, you only take assistance when you need it, and not when somebody insists upon it.
Yep.
And, you can travel anywhere. The same techniques work whether you're, down your street or in Orlando, because that's a new place you've never been before, or you're on a cruise ship or you're going to Ireland. It's just a matter of knowing those techniques no matter where you go in the world, because it's basically the same thing. I mean, if it's no sidewalks, you learn how to use your cane on cobblestone or where there's grass or, that kind of thing. Not everything is going to be a paved sidewalk. So, so I'm trying to not only do that with us, but also with with my suppliers. I work very closely with them that allow me to work closely with them in ways of educating them about accessibility. I've said in the past that I service all people with disabilities, but I know about us, the blind, what we need or advice we need when we're traveling. I may not know what somebody that's autistic or deaf may know, but I know about the blind since I am blind. I use a guide dog, so I know the ins and outs of traveling with a guide dog. And, that's the accomplishments that I'm trying to do. I've been honored for them. I've been honored at the 2012 Disabled Entrepreneur by Governor Andrew Cuomo. I was going to say his father's name. It keeps sticking in my head. Yeah. I'm still part of that generation, but Andrew Cuomo. I've been honored by many of the women's organizations here on Long Island and by my peers in the NFB. So I'm very proud of all the accomplishments that I've tried to do since being in business since 2009 with the help of the NFB.
Yeah. And that's definitely a great transition. There's a lot that was kind of not said in the things that you just spoke about, but one of the things that is key for business and as an entrepreneur as you are is building those relationships, whether it's with the blind person, being an expert in your field, or dealing with the prospective vendors or current vendors that you have, as well as with the theme parks. And one of the things that I like to tell people is a man or a woman with experience is not at the whim of someone with an opinion. And if I wanted to get a guide dog and I needed to know what's the ins and outs of traveling with that guide dog, I would call someone like you who has that experience. You've run awards, you've done advocacy that has brought things to the forefront. You've accomplished some amazing challenges. And tell us about one of those, especially with Disney World. How did that whole thing happen and you made, things happen for the blindness community with the relationship with Walt Disney World?
Well, actually, it's the Disney company as well. I mean, when I read, and I got to go back a little bit, I'm always on the internet. I read everything out there. I always focus on if I see things like, oh, this person brought a lawsuit against this place or that place. I want to find out what's going on so I could see, well, maybe we could, rectify the situation. Maybe it's a double-edged sword. It could be the person doesn't know when they're traveling what the services offer, or it could be the other edge of the sword that, the organization like Disney is working on it, but they just don't know how to go about it. I mean, that's a lot of things that I find out. But going back to that is that I had people very interested in going to Disney, and I've been to Disney myself as a sighted person. And a couple of years ago, I went with my daughter, and it was a very emotional thing because I picked up at the guest services window what's called the Wayfinder. And basically what this is a device about the size of a cell phone, maybe a little bigger like the old cell phones before they really shrunk, with raised buttons, left, right, start, and what it is, reverse and all that. And when you put it on, first of all, you got to rent it. It's $25, but they give you the money back, so you don't walk off with the product. And, I picked it up at the Magic Kingdom because that was the first place my daughter and I went. And I put it on and I tested it out, and always test them out before you leave the guest services area because sometimes they may not be set for somebody that's blind. It might be set for somebody who's deaf, since it's a multi-purpose device for people with a number of disabilities. Just make sure it's working properly and you understand how to use it, because it does. It gets a little complicated if you don't. But as soon as you're walking down like Main Street, USA, and if you're familiar with Walt Disney World, they have satellites around the park, and it's like similar to like a GPS. And when you're walking down Main Street, USA, it starts saying, you are now in the Magic Kingdom and walking down Main Street, USA. In the area, you have some pastry shops and bakeries, and you also have Hall of Presidents. It depends on how far you're away from the item you're walking to. It also tells you there's bathrooms in the area. It doesn't give you like pinpoint like the bathrooms to your left about 500 feet. It tells you that you're right in front of the Liberty Bell in Main Street, USA. They are constantly updating the product. And when you're just walking around, it's in that synthesized voice that we're all familiar with, whether it's Jaws or Window Eyes. And then when you're going on a ride, like similar to It's a Small World, which that was always my favorite ride as a kid. And when I went in 2009, I wasn't enjoying myself with my family because I couldn't see these things anymore. And then when I went in 2011 with my daughter, who at the time was 21, so we did a mother-daughter trip, I used this on the same ride. And it was describing, like somebody telling me a story, not in that synthesized voice, that you're on the boat and you hear the song It's a Small World going on in all different languages, but it tells you, now you're passing the dolls from Israel. They're dressed in white and blue, and they're under a chuppah and dancing and twirling around and all that, and above you, so you can understand that. I wanted to explain this to you before I went on to how I got involved with working with Mark Jones, who's the access manager of Disney theme park and resorts. I have, us travel agents have a network of people we work with. We work with each other. People think, oh, travel agents don't work with each other, which is not true. We're always networking and educating each other. So I asked, does anybody know who the access team is with Disney? And I finally got it. And I reached out to him and I emailed him, and I was very surprised that Mark emailed me back. He was very eager to work with us. In fact, Mark Jones is, his parents and brother are totally deaf, so he was the only person in his family who wasn't disabled. So he grew up in that environment of somebody being, knowing what it's like to live with people with disability. It may not be blindness because each disability is different, but he focused his career on working in accessibility for people with disabilities. So since then, he has been on, I have the Echeverria Travel Show, which he was on, and we were talking about all the accessibility there. And then we had a conference call with members of the officers of the Travel and Tourism Division last year. And then at our national convention last year in 2013, before the convention actually started, we went to the Magic Kingdom, all the officers of the division. It was a working thing. Yes, we had fun there, but it was not like we were there for the day to play at Disney. We were there to work and learn. So he took us, and we met his team at Walt Disney, at the Magic Kingdom, and we all had the wayfinders on, and they kept asking us, can this be changed? How is this? Do you think it should be bigger? Do you think it should be smaller? Do you think we should have synthesized voices on everything or just on the rides itself? They asked us what we thought was good and bad, so they took that back, and they're constantly updating. I'm not going to say when we go in 2014 because we're going to Epcot this year, but not with Mark Jones and his team. We plan to go every year that we're in Disney to go to a different park of Walt Disney World, because there's 4 theme parks there. It's not just the Magic Kingdom and Epcot anymore. It's 4 theme parks, and we plan on doing this as a working day, and go to a restaurant and go to a couple of rides with the wayfinders on, see how they're working, make sure they're working properly, and then come back and give a report to Mark and his team, because he was very kind enough last year to not only speak at the Travel and Tourism Division, but he also went and spoke at NAGDU, which is the National Association of Guide Dog Users, which I am also a member of. And they were explaining, because there's a lot of myths out there about guide dogs, that they're not allowed in certain areas of the park. And they said that's not true. We always advise, but we don't deny. And I think that's where the problem can lie, when people say, oh, well, we have issues with Disney, they're not accessible. It's a lot of misconceptions and people on both sides of the coin not knowing. So that's how that's our relationship. In fact, on the 6th, before we move on, Mark and his technology team is working with myself and a couple other travel agents within the Travel and Tourism Division on their travel agent website. The consumer website is up and running, and it's accessible for people who are blind. But some parts of their travel agent portal, which we use to book our clients to Disney, there's also training options for us as well. So somebody that's going to be a travel agent should know everything about their product before they even sell it, or else, people know when you're not knowing your stuff. And certain parts of the website is not accessible. So we're going to be working with his team on a conference call on the 6th, so we could see if we could fix these issues. So this is a great partnership that I have worked with Disney, and they've been very acceptable about working, at least with my team anyway.
Yeah, and that's great. I even look at when we go out to movies now, and to be able to get the little device and the headsets to be able to have audio described movies, and it really changes the whole experience. You can now go on a date, and you can go with the sighted peer and be able to get that device, listen to the movies, and have it described to you. And I really love that, and I tested it out on a comedy because I felt that if I could hear the joke and understand the joke and laugh when everybody else was laughing, this is a great product. So
right.
It definitely worked, and I can imagine what a audio described theme park would be like. So that's very interesting, as well as the technology behind it and making that accessible with his team. So what other mainstream or assistive devices are you using on a daily basis?
Well, I use my Android, and yes, my Android does have text-to-speech. Okay, thank you. I mean, I realized even with an iPhone, there are some apps out there that are not accessible. I mean, the phones are. It depends on the app you're using. But I use that. I use Window Eyes, which I'm still learning. I use Zoom Text. I've stopped doing Braille only because it's not like I can't read it or don't have time to learn it. I'm diabetic, and I have diabetic fingers, and it hurts very much. So after a while, as long as I know what it is and where it is and know my ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, I can tell definitely if something needs Braille on it or not. I use a lady down in Alabama. She's the secretary of the affiliate of the Alabama division, and she does all my Braille business cards and menus if I need them, if I get them from my suppliers. So I use many people within the Braille blind community because we have to help each other out business-wise. And I if I don't read it and somebody does, I make sure I get them the services they need in Braille. What other devices that I use? I use my NLS book reader because there's many magazines out there that help me read the latest magazines for the travel industry. It's not just sitting behind a computer and in my pajamas all day and, out there trying to sell a product to somebody. It's learning what's out there. So I use my NLS reader, my cane, my guide dog. Cane first, guide dog second, third-sided guide if I need it.
You're almost like a restaurant. We're not going to throw anything away.
That's right.
Build bridges and partnerships. So, yeah.
That's right. But my biggest thing is I just try to tell people, even the travel agents, when I go to these travel agent meetings, and it's like, you're so amazing. How do you do it? I can barely see my computer, and I'm sighted, and, you get all these crazy thoughts in your head, well, maybe use a pair of glasses, but, go to the eye doctor, that kind of thing. But I always say, I always answer them, well, I try to explain to them, I use the screen reader, I use this, I use that, and, it's not as difficult as it may seem. And I try to educate them, but it's more of oh, you're so amazing. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'm amazing, thank you. At first I used to think, I don't understand why these people think I'm so amazing, but if they want to keep patting me on the back, fine, I'm good with it.
Let them do so.
Yes.
Great. So we have now reached my favorite part of the show, the thunder moment. And this is where I ask you a series of questions, and you come back with brief and most excellent answers. Sound like a plan?
Sounds wonderful. Throw them at me. Let's see where it goes.
All right. So who was your mentor growing up, and what was the best advice they gave you?
My mentor growing up was my father. He passed 25 years ago, and he was my mentor. I always looked up to him, Daddy, Daddy's little girl. And he always told me never give up.
Never give up. Great. And speaking of theme parks, we know that life is a big roller coaster, and you have your ups and you have your downs. Tell us about an up that you have had and how that affected you.
Well, the up that I have is, first of all, I always go back to the NFB. I like when I was asked to be president of the Travel and Tourism president. It was a great honor for me. I've never asked to run for anything, so that was a great up for me.
Okay. And of the innovations and updates in technology, mainstream and or assistive, what's exciting you the most?
I like the updates that are coming around, mostly technology-wise. I'm a big techie person. Of course, you got to get away from the talking all the time. But the technology that's out there, everything is coming up roses for us. I like the fact that now WindowWise is free to use, to download. I was able to download it about a month ago and play around with it, so we don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get it. Or if our case is closed, we're with our Commission for the Blind. I think that's wonderful that that they're partnering with the blind and realizing that a lot of this stuff is expensive for us, and we can download them and we can use them without going through red tape. I think that's really great.
All right. And actually, when you mentioned that, my call right after you is with GW Micro. So, yeah, that's definitely very, very exciting and a game changer. So, you're right. You have lots of life experience, both as a wife and as a person using a guide dog and a blind person in general. But the newly blind person would come to you and say, hey, what's one thing that you can tell me that will help me overcome my blindness, deal with it better, or just be a better person living with blindness? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, first of all, and I don't want to sound like Forrest Gump, but life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And that's true. And everybody's different. I said confidence is the most important thing. If you have confidence, you can overcome anything. Without that, you're going to sit in a box, never leave your house, and get out there and learn, because life is too short. I could have died a couple of years ago in dialysis. And, people say to me, you poor thing, when they say to me that I'm blind. I'm like, look, don't say poor thing. I almost died on dialysis. And you look at life differently. I mean, I've always been up. I've always been wanting to help. That's just me in nature, being when I was born. But, since I became blind, we look at things differently. And I think confidence is the most important thing. If you don't have that, you're not going to try anything.
Yeah, it definitely shows. It definitely shows. So give us one last parting piece of advice. Tell us how we can reach you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay, advice. Learn your orientation and mobility skills. If you're not happy with your counselor, get an NFB member. We know, the ins and outs of mobility. How you can reach me is, I'm Cheryl Echeverria, and I'm going to spell my last name. It's E-C-H-E, V as in Victor, Echevarria. My website is echeveriatravel.com. Same way you spell my last name. 631-456-5394. My email is reservations@echeveriatravel.com. And also, I do a radio show which airs March 5th, which is Wednesday, at 8 o'clock p.m., the Echeveria Travel Show. And to go there at 8 o'clock Eastern, it's on www.throughoureys.org. That's throughoureys.org. We're on for an hour, and it's a live call-in talk show. And call in and talk to us. I'm going to have Mr. Neil Lewis on the show, and we'll be talking about accessible travel and the things going on with the NFB and in accessibility for us, the blind.
Great. And if you'd like to be a guest on the Delivering Access podcast, contact us at Fedora Outlier, LLC. And it's www.fedoraaoutlier.com. I'd like to thank Aaron Linkson, our podcast producer and sound engineer, Cheryl Echeverria, our lovely guest for today. And I'd like to say goodbye.
Goodbye. I will talk soon, and have a great day.
You too.
In my traditional closing, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you are right. Think pennies, get pennies. Think dollars, get dollars. See you on the other side.
This has been a Yuga Music Group production. Website 81x.com/Yuga/X. The Yuga Music Group can be reached at 678-608-8969. All rights reserved.